Hello everybody, this is JP3 here, bringing you another 100% casual, deathless run in Halo Reach's Legendary difficulty. We are on playable mission number 7, New Alexandria. Easily one of the most unique missions in Halo history. And I personally love this mission. I think it's one of the best in the series, and I would say that's at least for one major reason. It's that at least when I played this early on, this was probably the most replayable level because it presents you with 3 objectives and then 2 side objectives, smaller objectives, and these are presented to you in random order. And in terms of the side objectives, those are randomized, and there are more than just 2. So no playthrough ever quite feels the same, at least unless you've played it as many times as I have. So you could argue there's at least 6 different ways to play this level if you think about the combinations, the different combinations in which you can be sent to these objectives. So what you're getting is the deathless run that I put together for this project. When I say put together, I don't mean literally put different things. This is all a single segment run here. So, but yeah, this is the one that this is the draw I got. Hospital first. And so the strategies I'll be talking about will involve, of course, being at the hospital first. So here we go. So I just real quickly, I ran in there really fast because sometimes they'll stay napping if you run in there and you can just tap them all out. But that's seems like a much rarer occurrence. So you want to kill the grunts. I'm using different weapons besides the DMR sometimes when I in this level, or even when I'm playing Reach in general, just to try to mix it up. The DMR is such a balanced and complete weapon that I try to at least keep it a little more fresh, maybe. But anyway, ran in, got the grunts. Should have focused earlier and more quickly on the engineer. If I already had a needle rifle, that's exactly what I would have done. So if you have the needle rifle from another one of the objectives and then you come here, you want to be sure and get rid of the engineer pretty fast. It already takes a lot of shots to kill these enemies. You don't want it to take any more than it has to. I'd like to pick up the hologram in this level. It is extremely useful in the hospital. After that, not necessarily, but in the hospital it is extremely useful, and I'll show you why that is. It will make things a lot easier for you. Alright, so we had a multi-kill grenade at the grunts earlier, and now we can't get one grenade to kill one jackal. I guess the shield absorbed most of that, but still kind of annoying there. So notice how I'm periodically using the hologram to just kind of distract the enemies. Who says melee's dead in Halo? To distract the enemies, keep them off of me for a little bit. Just to rile them up a little bit here and there, but that's not going to be the main and primary use for us. So I'm just doing that mostly for fun. It's not always necessary, especially if you send them away from the windows, but oh goodness, we've got some needler jackals over here we got to take care of with our DMR, so we're just going to pace our shots. This guy comes up, he thinks he's going to cause some trouble. Not today, pal. Probably not a bad idea at all to collect the needler ammo and go ahead and switch off the plasma pistol here, and I see some down there. Oh, I did. I guess I grabbed. I think there was some up there earlier that I should have grabbed. But probably good idea to go ahead and start doing that. There is a lot of DMR ammo in the hospital. This is actually, it's the hardest of the 3 objectives, I would argue, but it's probably a really good first objective now that I'm not considering this playthrough. You start out with a lot of DMR ammo to refill, and the DMR is a very balanced weapon, and it's really good for this area for the most part. And there's weapons you get in this in the hospital that will serve you well in the later areas. So yeah, it's probably a good starting place, but it is almost definitely, well, at least in my opinion, the hardest of the 3 major objectives that you have to complete. Kind of wasting the needler there. Probably should conserve it for the brute. That's probably why I didn't care because, you know, he's from, especially him being a captain, me being in the elevated position, it's really hard to get a 6 needles to stick into him before he dodges or armor locks or whatever it might be. So not so bad up close, as we saw in Exodus if you watched that video. So anyway, which I encourage you to do, because we do use the needler in that if you're a fan of the gun. So the best thing for you to start doing right now is to start, I'm not sure why I'm juggling that needler, I guess just in case, but the main thing here is you want to juggle the plasma pistol below, or down those steps. Make sure it's down those steps, and you want to juggle at least 2 of them over there. 3 if you're not confident. You also want to juggle that thing too, because you're going to want to take it out of here. Actually, I think I pick it up and try to collect more of it later on. Spend way too much time doing that, but we'll get to that in a minute. So there's DMR ammo all over this hospital. There's also a lot of health packs, as you would imagine. It's not a bad idea at all to continue using the needler against the brutes, of course, even though they tend to do that a lot on Legendary, almost annoyingly so, definitely annoyingly so. But it's it's their best defense against it. I don't blame them for using the armor lock, even though they have no armor, but that's a whole nother story. So as you're dealing with the brutes here, I find that it's best to go with the DMR. I would not waste any of your needle rifle ammunition. You're going to need it for the hunters in the club, and you'll see my strategy there once we get to that. I don't know if anyone else uses the strategy I use or uses it quite the way I use it, but it's really good. Just so you know, I didn't think I talked about this in Exodus, but this is a berserking brute in Halo Reach. This is what a berserking brute does. They, with reckless abandon, just charge you firing. It definitely looks a lot different than it did in Halo 2 and in Halo 3. They don't drop their weapon. They continue to hold their weapon and just charge at you. It's probably the easiest you'll ever kill a berserking brute in any of the Halos thus far. Although I would make an argument for it's easy to some degree to kill them in Halo Reach. I'm sorry, Halo 3, because that animation takes so much time. You can usually melee them to death while they're in the midst of their about to be berserk animation. So this is the one use we'll have for the needle rifle here. But I think we're going to hold on to it so we can collect some needle rifle ammo. I've already said that. But we're not going to be using it anymore in this room. We're just going to use the DMR, not only because it's effective and well-balanced gun, but it's also just, again, lots of ammo for it here in the hospital. I think that's 3 times I've said that. Bullet to his brain, get him dead. Pick up some DMR ammo there that I've talked a lot about. There was only one needle rifle holding brute in this area, past the initial area. And so I just, for some reason, thought either A, I was shot at by more than one brute in this part of the hospital with needle rifle, or I thought there was always more than one. I'm not really sure which is which, but I do spend way too much time looking for it. And I say that not only because it looks boring to the viewer and to me as I watch this, but I also say that because you have 4 needle rifle ammunition pickups outside of this room when you're leaving. There are 4 skirmishers with needle rifles, and when you get to the club, there are 2 additional skirmishers with needle rifles that are up on the balcony. So there is absolutely not in any way, shape, or form a need to spend this much time looking for needle rifle ammo. There is plenty of it if you start with the hospital for that section, for that objective with the brutes. So yes, lambaste me in the comments sections if you will. So I am using the Xbox One DVR, or was using it for this recording, so it only records for 10 minutes at a time. And so even though this is all a single segment run, you will see periodic, once every 9.5 minutes or so, pauses throughout this run. So you want to pick up a plasma rifle and keep your DMR, And be ready for 6 on Legendary. Count them, 6 Elite Rangers. Weak shields, but wily as hell. Ugh. So you want to keep throwing your hologram out there. This is the second most important use for it. The hologram not only draws their fire, but most importantly, it draws their attention. It puts them in range to shoot. Now, the thing about these jumpers, as our Marine friend called them, is that as soon as you get their shield down or get it close to getting down, they will jump away. It is very frustrating. Again, I understand the self-preservation of it all, but it's just annoying as hell. It really is annoying as hell. It makes them appropriately difficult enemies, but I really just, I guess what I would say is I wish that Bungie would have programmed to be a little more random with that. Maybe sometimes they do jump away. Maybe sometimes they bull rush and try to come over here and attack you, instead of doing that crap every single time. I do a darn decent job against the jumpers here, but it doesn't always go this smoothly. That guy kind of got stuck. He was kind of in the position where I see so many times they will go for cover, so maybe that's why he didn't move as quickly. That guy I just caught off guard before he could jump out of the way. He was in his I've lost my shield animation, which is unique for elites and sometimes for ranks. So notice there, take off his shield, didn't really get that animation. He jumped away and canceled the animation. I'm pretty sure that's what occurred. But hey, we take them all out with a fairly decent level of speed, which is pretty nice. Didn't get stuck at that part, spending 5 minutes taking them out, which is cool. Didn't get even close to running out of DMR ammunition. By me saying that, you can imagine that I've at times gotten close to doing that before. Probably more likely out of just sheer frustration and, just not being able to catch those headshots. But I don't like to bring the plasma pistol over for them. They do tend to evade the bolts a lot more easily. And if you get, or the bolts won't even track because that distance is so much shorter. It's not Halo 2 where it'll track across the map, or Halo 1 where it'll track across the map, that's for sure. So now here, I'm still looking for needle rifle ammo, I swear to God. Pick up a plasma pistol and do exactly as I say. Send a hologram this away, shoot the 2 needle rifle skirmishers immediately, if it's clear to do so. Send another hologram, same direction, and then overcharge this Elite Ultra with the craptastic concussion rifle. You don't always kill him that quickly. He's sometimes a lot more wily. He's a jackrabbit at times, but in that case, you can see there where it can obviously go pretty darn well. Make sure you pick up your needle rifle ammunition, not nearly, or considerably more important than picking up DMR ammunition, although you may walk over it accidentally and refill it without even trying, because, there's a lot of it in the hospital. Okay, 4th time, I've said it, I'm not going to say it anymore. That's it. Just 4 skirmishers, the 2 at the bottom, and then 2 retreat to the top or remain at the top, I'm not sure. And like I say again, I think I accidentally, no I didn't run over any DMR ammo, but notice I'm not going back to get it at all. Because, it's ubiquitous actually throughout this level. Alright. So, we will get our next mission. It is actually, we'll get a side mission now. It can be any number of things. It can be... I would split the side missions into 3 different types. There's these types. I get 2 of these types, actually, where you're trying to kill kind of a specialized enemy of sorts so a team can be evac'd by Pelican. And during that process, you'll usually not only kill the enemies themselves, but you'll usually face off against either the infinitely, and I do mean infinitely spawning banshees in this area, or you'll be facing off against maybe banshees that are very common and will come along with that mission that you do have to kill before things can move forward. The other, I'd say the second type, is the escort mission. So you're usually escorting another Falcon, and it's almost always, if not always, Buck from Edward Buck from Halo 3 ODST. He will see you in hell. And then the third type is kind of like the first type, but with a twist. The third type is where you take out another jammer, but I'm almost positive that you have to actually be on the ground to take it out, so it adds that little extra twist to it. You have to actually get out and take it out. Now, if I'm wrong about that, can't believe I didn't look this up prior. If I do look it up, then I'm sure there will be some white text at some point that will correct me, but you have to actually get out and reset that jammer manually, which, again, makes it a little more time intensive and perhaps even a little more difficult as well. As far as dealing with infinitely spawning Banshees, I think most people know how to do this that are trying to play this on Legendary, but you just kind of bank to one side and try to lead them as best you can. Dodging as best you can any fuel rods, and hopefully not getting caught in an ambush with 2 or 3 or more of them shooting at you. I am now looking for the Banshee Bob, who will usually spawn over at that point if you're over here, right around that area. It's not on any type of set timer that I've ever seen. Usually, if I hang around this area in between the early missions, he will come out. And that's the best way I can describe how to find him. This is not, however, going to be a tutorial on how to complete that objective. So there he is. Now you know what he looks like if you didn't already. He's flying fast and low. Has the little jets coming out from time to time, but flying at the same speed the whole time nonetheless. He is almost always, at this level. If you look at the altimeter there, it's right around 50 to 100, and it does put you in a bit more of a perilous position. It's generally better to be higher on the Banshees than lower, because they tend to fire fuel rods a lot more accurately and a lot more frequently whenever they are when they're above you. So, and if you want to avoid a lot of the Banshee Falcon combat, then you just get really high. Get really high and you'll avoid most of it. You can just kind of race from objective to objective. Not saying you can avoid all of it, but you'll avoid most of it. One of the reasons I like New Alexandria is because it plays upon, I think, a very successful trope for Halo games and for certain missions, which is, simply put, overpowered vehicle against lots and lots and lots of armor. Now, you don't always feel overpowered in the Falcon on Legendary difficulty, but you have a decided advantage over any one, or perhaps even any 2 or 3 enemies. So for the club, you definitely want to take out those turrets. They flank each side of it. You'll see the other one right there. Definitely take those out before you try to start taking out enemies that are on the ground there. There are actually 2 turrets down by the club as well. I believe on Legendary difficulty they are fuel rod turrets. The problem, or actually not, the cool thing is that they rarely ever A, are manned by a grunt, B, fired by a grunt, who are the ones that man them, or C, you are generally staying high enough not to be fired upon. I'm not really sure, but I know I've seen them fire on me before. It just seems like a pretty rare thing. That being said, take them out first. Whether they're fuel rod turrets or just your regular old, run-of-the-mill anti-air, you definitely want to prioritize them before you do the infantry. The Phantoms, by the way, unless you get really close to them, they are not a threat. Do not go chasing after Phantoms, especially if you're under fire, unless for some reason it is being a threat to you, or you're trying to inflate your score, I guess, for some sort of achievement or objective, the daily challenges. Those objectives. So notice we've got 2 fuel rods coming at us there. That's actually really good. They're easy to dodge, and that means you're getting relief from the sustained forward plasma cannon fire, which can eat you up pretty fast in the Falcon if it stays too sustained for too long. It's not very accurate. It doesn't pound at you the same way it does in Halo Halo 2, certainly. Almost kind of reminds me more of the way it was in Halo Combat Evolved. And Halo 3 to some degree, too. So, your gunners will actually do a pretty darn good job with the Banshees and with infantry, but there is a very limited range on how much, blah blah. The enemy, the armor, whatever it is, the aircraft has to be close for them to fire upon it. But when they do fire upon it, they do a pretty darn good job. So unless you're doing some kind of speed running strat or which I could explain in detail, but I'm not. Here, you definitely want to keep your gunners, and I don't think I ever lose them unless our craft, our Falcon here, gets beat up really terribly, and so they usually are they're pretty valuable, and they usually stay alive pretty successfully. Can't jump over that with the hologram. Don't have the jetpack. So I'm, again, coming back to something really fast. I'm coming up here for needle rifle ammo that I don't need. There are, I mean, if this was the first mission, I would need that needle rifle ammo. So you might see a couple of times where I get slowed down because, again, just kind of mixing up the strategies. Because, again, with a different ordering, you'd have a whole different approach in some cases. So this is my trick with the hunters. 2 super combines will take the armor off their back. So the first thing you want to do here is take the armor off of the hunters' backs. Don't get tempted and try to kill a hunter yet. You want to make sure and take the armor off their back, and it's really easy to do. All it takes is 6 shots to connect. It usually takes more because, you know, they have a lot of armor and it's far away, and the scope on this thing is, I think, pretty shallow. I think it's 2 times shallow, whereas the 2 times the magnification, rather, versus the DMR, which I believe is 3. Once you've de-armored their backs, I don't know, I think it's 5 or 6 super combines it takes, maybe less, because you were actually injuring them. I think it may be 5 or 6 total. So you just do them one by one. I usually like to do the top guys first, but neither of them were in a position. I take that back. I usually like to do the bottom guy, then the top guy on the same side. But here I don't get the chance to, so I'm going to focus on this guy. He's a little wise to our plan here, though, so I'm going to look over at this guy, see if we can't whittle him down. But I don't spend too much time on anyone if they're facing us, especially when there's 2 other ones to look at, okay? So just look at whoever seems to be the most vulnerable. In this case, the guy that's focused on the Marines, and take them out. As soon as you take down the bottom hunters, the top hunters will come down and take their place. With this strategy in effect, once you run out of needle rifle ammo, you can use the DMR very safely and much more easily to take them out to take out their backs. Okay? I'm just tired of dealing with this, so I'm just going to stick him, and he is damaged enough to be destroyed by that. It does seem like that most of the time, when there's just one guy left, he aggroes to me and he stops focusing on the Marines. Unfortunately, this guy was not damaged enough to be destroyed by a grenade stick. I don't know if that grenade landed the right way to do damage to him, but it didn't seem to phase him. So we are going to now go to our very, very common backup strat. Since he's focused on us, we can't very easily in any way, shape, or form take him out from the back with the DMR. It would take way too long. Even if he's weak, it may still take 5 to 7 shots. And we don't have that kind of time, nor do we want to take that kind of risk. So instead of doing that and trying to find a, I don't know what I'm doing here. I picked up the bubble shield, but I don't want it. I guess I was going to come down here and get sprint and then see maybe when I came back. I know why. I want sprint for this. I want to be able to move quickly from a blast. So, but I definitely want sprint for the next section, but it's available to you before you have to need it. So I guess I clearly was thinking about needing it there to evade Hunter Blast if I needed to, if it came to that. So we just picked up this rocket launcher here, and that direct shot killed him. So don't forget to press the button. I think, yeah, for a second there I almost forgot. But there on that level, what I just ran over there is the needle rifle ammunition that you will take into the final objective, and you definitely want to take it with you. And you want to go back to this side to leave, because if you need them, there's 2 plasma grenades sitting there. I wish I would have been more confident in using and not using the night vision in this club, because these colors and all this stuff is just really pretty, and frankly it brings back a lot of memories of playing this game several years ago when it first came out. Just one of the more memorable, I guess, levels because of the color. So there is usually a really massive ambush that happens right here, and right now if you look at our minimap, it doesn't look like it would occur, but you know, if you want to, just watch the minimap. Just watch what happens here. Do you see that? Look at those 3 pieces of crap. They just spawned in from nowhere. They just spawned in from nowhere. So not only do we have the 2 or 3 that were behind us, but then we have these guys spawning. So I almost, despite that, I almost always go behind this building and get cover from the immediate threats. And then just start taking guys out, hoping to take no more than 2 or 3 at a time, if at all possible. Can't always control that, because again, you can have enemies just magically spawn in. But we defeated that ambush by getting, I think, behind the building fast, so we could take out those 2 groups, the one that existed and the one that spawned in cheatingly, one at a time. 3 Banshees apiece each of those times. So this is another mission, side mission, just like the one we did before, but instead of focus rifle jackals, we're dealing with hunters. Believe it or not, they don't take a terribly long amount of time to take down, despite the fact that it's probably clear you're hitting them from the front. We actually saved 3 people. I looked at this beforehand. 3 of the 4 people were saved. I do like to try to save them. And so, don't worry about the Phantom, unless you don't get tempted. Just leave it be. No one cares about the score. So, yeah, the Pelican will come down and rescue them. Until that occurs, unless you don't give a crap about keeping these guys alive, you can, heck, you could just shoot them all dead and I think the side quest ends, but that's just sounds filthy to me. Usually you'll get Banshee waves come through to for this objective. Maybe that was the guys that was spawning in. They weren't going in that direction, but maybe that's why they spawned in. Maybe they were there. It seems like you usually have to defend against a Banshee attack with those types of objectives. Along with the guys marked with the red markers. Boomerangs. The red boomerangs. So that's the building with the green sign on it there. So this, you see this little twisty kind of set of buildings that are twisty buildings that are linked by that twisty hall there. Almost all of those in the middle of the map have a turret on them. That one you want to take out, and then there's a turret in the very front, on the top of the very front building here, and you want to take it out before you start clearing out infantry or getting into prolonged battles with Banshees. If we can take this out today, there we go. Now, I actually do get into a prolonged battle with infinitely spawning Banshees. I am not 100% sure that it was necessary, but let's talk about this first here. So same thing here with the club. As with the club, you have 2 turrets set up. Rarely will they fire at you. I'm not sure if I'm out of their range or if the grunts just aren't manning them yet or what, but they are rarely a threat from that distance at least, so if you take them out first. I know I've had them fire upon me before. I'm just going to assume that that was because I neglected to take them out before I started doing other things around this building. You definitely want to not let the Banshees, again, pile up on you. Because, again, 2 or 3 at a time at the most is what you don't want to deal with much more than that, or they will take down your shields. Again, you are definitely in an overpowered vehicle by almost any standard, but on legendary difficulty, having 4 or more Banshees firing at you will eventually kill you. It'd probably kill you before it kills the vehicle if you get too many on you. And if you survive it and have a really beat up vehicle, you can always call for emergency evac by pressing, I believe, up on the D-pad. That's amazing that Bungie would give you that out. I don't know if they were concerned that this level was too hard, or maybe flying the Falcon was going to be too challenging. I certainly think that I'm not willing to question their wisdom on this and what they may have discovered through playtesting, but for the love of God, man, on legendary difficulty, that's a hell of an out. Makes it a lot harder to die. A lot harder to die. So, you know, especially in aerial combat. So, anyway, again, probably too prolonged of a battle here with the Banshees, and there's no need to feel a pressure to kill them all. By the way, you do not, if you do have scoring on, you will not obtain scores for your side gunners' kills, which is a really strange, really strange thing, given that, you know, in almost any other scenario where you're driving a vehicle or flying a vehicle and there are dudes where they're, you know, in this case, you know, friendly AI, you usually get their kills, you know, in single player, you know, right? But you do not here. So they if you do turn on scoring and kind of use scoring as a means to kind of get a sense of, you know, who's all dead and all that stuff, you know, you won't know all the time what they're doing. It's really hard to find the magic, kind of that magic place. I'm at it right now, but I think I've got 2 Banshees behind me, so I think I bugger out because I don't want them to fuel rod down here. Notice that one looked like it had already been worked on by our gunners, and because they were the ones that got the kill, I mean, it may take one bullet. All you have to do is hit one, you know, get one good bullet on the Banshee, and the score may be yours. But if they do all the work, or maybe, I'm not sure, most or all the work, then they will get credit for it, and you won't. So this is where the needle rifle is really important, because you're going to be dealing with brutes, and while there are other ways to deal with them if you get this mission first, if you don't, then both of the first 2 areas have needle rifle available. So I'm just going to pick up the fuel rod here because I don't want to have to headshot him since he was hiding. Notice how he came out of hiding when I didn't have a headshot weapon anymore. How clever of you, Bungie. How clever. So he didn't stand a chance against that fuel rod. Or should I say, but he didn't stand a chance against the fuel rod. Alright, so let's do, yeah, of course, blah, blah, armor lock with no armor, yada, yada. Yeah, get them done there, and we have a glut of ammunition, so we can spam all we want. Just be sure you come to this side because of that guy. Guess what he has? A concussion rifle, the most overpowered weapon in the game if the enemy is holding it, relative to how powerful it is when you are holding it. So yeah, just take him out from that angle over there. Very important, in my opinion, that you choose this elevator. Choose this elevator, because in the route that I take to get back, it is always the closest one to run into. Because as you probably know, and if you don't, then I will tell you, you get ambushed by buggers. By buggers in this room. I don't actually think they're infinitely spawning, although that's what some people think. I don't think they're infinitely spawning, but I know that there are a lot of spawns of them. It is ridiculous to take a stand and fight these guys here on legendary difficulty. So don't. Use your sprint. This is what I do. Use your sprint. Shoot this guy with the needler, because he'll either super combine or headshot him. And then as soon as you hear that, the chirpiness, then do your next sprint. Touch the button. Bing, bang, boom. You're out of here. It's not always that easy, but it's certainly made easier by the strategy that I outlined. I have no idea why I picked up this focus rifle. It is completely and utterly useless. I do happen to use it, though. I do happen to use it if the hospital's next. If I'm coming out of here, sometimes. Actually, I don't remember the last time I did that. If I have the hospital first, I leave this place with a full DMR. No, that's right. I leave this place either, it's amazing. If you don't get the hospital first, there are a lot of different ways to handle things. So you can leave here with a rocket launcher and a fuel rod, or a rocket launcher and the focus rifle. And then, since DMR is ubiquitous in the hospital and not really necessary in the club, you don't have to bring DMR out of here. But you do have to get past those first 4 grunts. That's why I went in and plasma pistoled them, because I've been used to doing that. Because sometimes you don't have the DMR yet if you want to try to take specialized weapons in with you. So, anyway, gosh, I am blabbing on. So we are at the final objective. This is the only truly consistent thing, is you will always get this as your final objective. I don't... You know, this is one of those things where, you know, I look down, I see the red dots, I'm like, you know, I don't want these guys chasing me, and then suddenly getting to my elevation and shooting me and crap as I'm trying to move over here. But then, you know, I start shooting and I realize, you know what, they're probably stuck down there. They're probably not going to come up here. But then when you start whittling them down, you're like, well, you know, I got to finish the job. I can't let this guy off, right? Can't let him get away. So you definitely want to be careful of the Banshees in this section. Definitely careful of them. But they're not, I just say that, they're not hugely interested in you the same way they would be if you were in kind of mid-mission at some point and you saw 3 or 4 red dots on your mini-map. They are all coming for you in that circumstance. Here, they might focus on the Pelicans. They might focus on flying around and patrolling. So if you see a bunch of red dots, it's not always a cause for concern. You can go ahead and keep focusing on these turrets. I've rarely ever been ambushed by Banshees in this section, and regretted not focusing on the Banshees more. Unless they were all shooting at me. See, notice how those 2 just flew right past us. That would not occur, especially on Legendary difficulty mid-mission. That would not happen. They would immediately aggro to you. So let's take this dude out. And by the way, don't worry, I mean, well, blah, 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 blah. Don't worry about the urgency in Cat's voice or anyone else's voice. You have no time limit. Just take the turrets out at your own pace. And if you have Banshees aggroing you, take the Banshees out. They can whittle you down pretty darn fast. Once you kill the final turret, you will see huge blobs of red all over your minimap. They are all fleeing. I don't think I've ever been killed by them before. I don't remember the last time I was shot by them. If you kept aggroing and chasing them down, is it possible they defend themselves? I guess. But otherwise, just land on the landing pad and know that you're almost always, if not always, going to be safe there. So that is playable mission number 7, one of my absolute favorites in Halo's vaunted history, New Alexandria. Please, if you like this kind of content, hit that thumbs up button. If you want more of it, you want to see more of this, please subscribe. If you want to get these, and of course I should mention this, if you have any questions, concerns, feedback, cool things you want to say, shout outs to your friends, whatever it is, please leave it in the comments section, all right? And if you want to get these things, these videos, these clips, this content fresh off the presses, hot off the assembly line, fresh off the assembly line, hot off the presses, hit that bell, that little notifications bell that's next to those thumbs, and I think close to the subscribe button. That will ensure that you get notified whenever I release something new. As for now, however, this is JP3 signing out. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you very, 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 very much for watching. Goodbye.